Hello YouTube friends, it's Dale from whatever the weather may be. I'm inside today. It's a very cold day out here. It's about minus 25 Celsius and the wind is really sharp and blowing hard, so it's a great day to be indoors. Not a walking day today, that's for sure. So I thought I would tell you a little bit about this child-sized snowman. I made this snowman a long time ago. He came to be in sort of a crazy roundabout way. I used to work in a very large hospital, a teaching hospital, and I worked with a bunch of nurses and doctors and technicians on a clinical floor. And in the hospital that I worked, it was a very large facility. In the hospital, they had a long corridor that at Christmas time, they turned into a Christmas mall. So they would have vendors and crafters and artists and everybody, lined up having booth after booth after booth of different things for sale for Christmas. And not always just for Christmas. Sometimes they had things that were not Christmas related, but a lot of it was Christmas stuff. And every lunch hour, the people that I worked with and myself would head down there and go through that mall, because the vendors, they changed almost daily. There was, they were not always the same people, so you didn't want to kind of miss a day because you might miss something. So if all of us couldn't go, some of us would go, and then they would come back and report to whoever had stayed behind that, you better go down there because such and such is down there, and I know you're going to want to see that. Anyway, this one day, a couple of nurses went down. I wasn't allowed, not that I wasn't allowed, but I couldn't get off the floor at the time. So a few nurses went down, and two of the nurses came back carrying these big snowmen, like something like this. And of course, everybody on the floor instantly fell in love with these crazy snowmen. And I was among the ones who really fell in love with these snowmen, until I was told that they paid $75 a piece for these snowmen. Then I kind of wasn't in love with them anymore. So I kind of looked them over before, I asked the question of one of the nurses, but I immediately started checking out the snowman to see how it was made and what it was made of. And then I asked one of the girls if I could borrow her snowman on my lunch break. So I did. She said, yeah, and I did. And I took the snowman into one of the examining rooms, and I took the clothes off of it, and I laid it on one of the examining room tables, which have the paper on, like a regular examining room has, or exam table has. And I traced around his body, and by that time I could tell that there was a wood piece inside this snowman. So I traced around the body until I got sort of an outline of what was underneath all the clothes. And I'll show you. I still have it. This is the piece that I traced around the body and I cut it out from the examining room table paper. Still have it, same piece. So as you can see, it's just a big round, you could almost use a dinner plate size for the head, and then there's a little bit of a neck, and then straight down for the legs, and the body is quite long, and then there's legs. You could make the body shorter and the legs longer. It doesn't matter, you don't really see the body part anyway. And so this is what you cut out of, this is the shape that you cut a piece of plywood, and that is what is in the middle of the snowman. It's as simple as that. His feet are just, well, I use plywood, but I think it's better to use a thicker, maybe a 2x4 or 2x6, a thicker piece of wood to cut his feet. And they're just, I'll show you what they look like. when we get to his feet. So, oh, I'll go back for a minute, sorry. So this is the board. Now to make his face and everything, I just cut from about here up all the way around 2 pieces of fabric, and I used a very soft white jersey fabric, and I gave it about 1.5 inches or so extra all the way around because I was sewing it. And I used a jersey because I knew you had to stuff it to make his face in a round shape, you know, to give him some personality. So I use a jersey because it's kind of stretchy. You can stuff away and it's not going to pull really tight. So that is what I used, just this part right here to make my pattern for my material. The bottom part, the legs, this part here, from here down, is just wood. I didn't cover that part. I only covered from about here to there. Because you got to stuff the head and you got to stuff the body because you want him to be kind of fat. So now we'll go back to Snowman. So then I sewed up the jersey material, and then I just stuffed it. And as you can see, he's stuffed. I didn't overstuff him, but he's got a nice shape. It goes all the way to the head, and then he's stuffed, his chest is stuffed all the way to the waist. You see he's quite puffy here. And then I just folded up the bottom after I had put the stuffing in, and I stapled it to the wood form. So it's not going anywhere. Once in a while you have to kind of rearrange the stuffing, but you can pull the stitches out or the staples out and do that and staple it back up again, or add more stuffing. Now the arms are just 2 long tubes. I just made a tube, open on each end, sewed it together, and put stuffing in that. And it's just attached right here, right onto, I just stapled the arm right onto the board inside here. There, you can see how it's done. And then down here, I have a mitten attached to his arm. I have it just tied on with some wool. And his feet, I'm just going to get down on my hands and knees, are just 2 pieces of wood with a wedge cut out that you can just slide the other plyboard piece right in. And I've glued it and nailed it or screwed it in so that the leg isn't going to come out. I think really it would be better to use like I said before, a block of wood, something a little thicker, because sometimes he is a bit tipsy, this one. But certainly if you're going to make a smaller one, you maybe could just use plyboard for that too. Or you could put 2 pieces of plywood together as well. And then his eyes are just 2 buttons that I've painted stars on. His nose is just a carrot that I made out of a piece of orange material and stuffed it and attached it. And I've just embroidered his smile on. And his clothing, I made the hat and the mittens and the sweater. I knit them. But you don't have to, if you can't knit or crochet and you don't want to spend that kind of time, you could go to a recycle store, thrift store, and pick up a used sweater and hat and mitts very easily. You would want to get a size much bigger than your snowman though, because you want it to be loose and drapey. So say you would pick up a sweater from an 8 or 9-year-old. That would fit the snowman quite well. And then you can tuck it. Like I've even tucked this sweater. As you can see, I've tucked it at the top. I tucked it at the top here too, just because it was too bulky. And the hat, you know, if you got if you were going to get a hat for this, a toque or something, I would get a man's toque, and then really try and stretch it out, because it's going to need a good stretching. These heads are quite large. Pants, I just made out of some old material I had laying around. But again, if you're not a sewer, you could go and just get a pair of pants, pair of children's pants, and you know, just sort of judge how wide you made their waist isn't very big. And if they're too long, you could just cut them off. I have another outfit for this snowman, and it is a blue and white striped sweater. It's a very bulky blue and white striped sweater. I use the same hat, but I use a different pom-pom. And I have a pair of regular blue jeans on him. And it's cute. I change it up. Every other year I change his outfit. So basically that's it. That's the $75 snowman. And not forgetting, that was about 20 years ago, $75. I have no idea what these would go for now. I have made quite a few of these. I've given them away. I've never sold them. I've always given them away as gifts to family or friends. And I've made different sizes of them as well. If you have a old Raggedy Ann Andy sewing pattern and you take it out and look at it, you will notice that the head and the body are exactly the same shape as what this is, only smaller. So I have actually used those, the 12-inch and the 18-inch pattern of that, to make small ones. And I still use the wood inside. I just cut the smaller piece, and I do it the exact same way as I would do this one. So that's the story of the snowman. He was a kind of a interesting little find when the nurse brought him up to the floor and showed everybody. I knew I wanted one, but I wasn't about to pay that kind of money. So I just tried to make one on my own, and I did. I've made different size ones, like I said before, and I've also made some girl snowmen. So you just put a skirt on instead of pants, and you would put some stockings on over the leg part. So you don't want the wood showing for her legs, or make it a long skirt to the floor. So I hope you enjoyed this. It's just one of the many, many things that I have made, and this one is quite enjoyable, and it really is appreciated by people when you give them one of these snowmen. Now, these were actually supposedly to be a snowman greeter. So a lot of people put them outside on their step for the winter, and they lit them up, and they were an outdoor ornament. But I can't see the benefit in our climate of doing that. I mean, he'd be covered with snow. He'd get all wet. You'd be forever digging him out of a snowbank. So I never do that. I always keep mine indoors. And really, it's the very first ornament that comes out in winter. I bring him out in about November, because the snowman is not Christmas, it's winter. And it's the last thing that goes back in storage after Christmas. So I keep this snowman out till about just before Valentine's Day, because our winters here sometimes are still going strong in April. So a snowman is appropriate. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you try and make one. And if you do, let me know. I'd be happy to help anybody who needs help, and I would actually love to see any finished products if anybody tries to do one of these. They're not hard. They're just a little fiddly, and just, let your imagination go. So from Snowy and myself, have a happy day today, everybody. Take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you real soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye now.